CS surgery.
Honestly, smart play on their part. Cooper, though, smart play indeed. Look, honestly, if you're seeking Cooper, you don't want to spend time in Slappy Shores. I'm going to be real with you. You want to loot up, get out, and keep going. And fortunately for them, they were able to do that. But unfortunately, if you look at that map, there's another team looming in their rotation path. And sure enough, Seek identifies it, gets some shots off, and is going to continue moving forward.
You say unfortunate. They say fortunate enough. I'm going to get my serves one way or another. As Seek and Cooper biding their time, playing patient. They're already in zone. They have plenty of metal because they landed towards Slappy Shores. And so the opportunity is theirs. You can see him with the slap barrels, just kind of getting as much HP and shield as possible, popping the big pot. And now he has a little bit extra rotation underneath his belt as we switch on over towards Faulty splits. Costa losing his teammates. Jylix using him as well. 2v1 situation for both of these duos if they want to stay in that position. And it doesn't look like Jylix does.
He's moving, though. Moving towards the zone, or staying in the zone, rather, and just getting away from that fight. Faulty splits. While you can split it, there's a lot of teams in this area, so you need to be super careful, especially when you're down a teammate, and that's what we see coming from Jylix as players like Smacked and Mikey join the fold. They have the high ground position here on the hill. They're just waiting for players like Costa or Mason to just expose themselves just for a moment so they can strike when the iron is high.
Ooh, Falcon Scout ruining every plan that anybody can have at hiding. As you see Costa getting spotted out. Sees Mason close in the distance. Quick piece control, quick edit to try to fire the shot. Not going to get landed. Even Costa fighting for more. Going to trade shots. His shield's no more. The bait and switch comes through. And that was played to perfection by Glace and Mason. If you need a lesson on how to bait and switch to make sure you both stay healthy, make sure you clip that one.
Yeah, I got to see it from Mason's angle, because look at how slippery he was. Jumps forward, slides up the ramp, takes the elimination, and cleans that up quite nicely. And all while using the Slurp Juice. I feel like we haven't talked about this enough. That Slurp Juice coming back into the game has been a huge addition here this season.
Yeah, I think you don't see it too much because of the chug splashes, the chili chug splashes, instant heals will always be just a little bit better. But in moments like this, or even on rotation, if I see one laying on the ground, I'm going to pop it even if I am full health, because if I do get tagged up along the way, it's going to regenerate as I reach my final destination, as Woozy and Scold trying to get as much shield and HP as possible. And you can see those extra splashes. They're just going to try to use them up so that way he can get the weapons back in his inventory. Blake and Bizzle looming in the distance. That's not a team that I want to face on their hot streak so far.
Speaking of teams potentially on a hot streak, is Palbot and his duo here in Cranky. Ether, Cranky. Looking at the way that they are set up quite nicely, finding themselves in the top 5 here in consistency. This is a team we have to pay closer attention to. I feel like we talked about them a little bit in the beginning, but realistically, they're not getting the love they need, because that is a duo to be reckoned with.
This is, talk about duos not to be reckoned with. Seek and Cooper. We've seen so many duos set themselves up for a great game, and they have great loot, but Kelly, how are these players getting such fantastic loot?
Thank you so much, Jacob. Kelly Link back here again, everyone. With Chapter 4, we've seen a lot of new things. A new map, new weapons, new augments, and also a new mechanic to the game, claiming POIs, which we are seeing Cooper doing right here, right now, as well as now doing Tinley is doing the same thing. By claiming these POIs, they not only get much needed weapons, but also heals and a little bit of awareness, seeing if there's anyone else around them on the map. Back to you guys.
Great usage of the POI. Listen, the players that identify and understand how to use their POI to their advantage and in the best way are the ones that are going to succeed. So honestly, we have to pay close attention to whether or not they will be able to, despite them being heavily contested in the area of the northern map. As we've seen, they definitely could be a duo to watch, but a duo that we definitely need to pay close attention to. It is Polo and Sean Yi. They have been doing big things here since game 1. They find themselves in 6th going into this game, so not necessarily into the top 5, but right outside. That means they're still contenders left in this game.
Hey, if they finish game number 5 in 6th place, and anybody in the top 5 win that final game, that earns them a spot into the finals. We've seen it in seasons past. And one of the more prominent names as well that's already got their position in the grand finals, Pamsu and Fats did that exact same thing. They got the qualification because another team won that victory at the end of the day as Sinks in blue. Huge tags on some players into the distance. You can see the Pilly's Plunder in his inventory, and Kelly broke it down. One way to get loot is through the capture points. Well, guess what? Augment and Peely's Plunder is another way.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest, man. That Peely's Plunder, it's probably one of the few excuses I'll allow for them to be in Storm. Like, that thing is powerful. And when you open it and you get 2 legendary Thunder shotguns, there's honestly not many other better feelings here when it comes to Fortnite, because that thing is beautiful to have. But looking at inventories that aren't necessarily as beautiful to have, it's FaZe Bizzle and Blake. Bizzle struggling here a bit. Does have that Excalibur rifle. Beautiful addition to the game, might I add. But not a lot else going on in the inventory. So he is going to need either a refresh or find some additional loot here on his way in.
Yeah, for a lot of the teams, the zone, a little bit off center, but as close to the center as it could be without actually being there. So it's going to be interesting to see what the slow side ends up being, where that next one is going to pull, as Noxy and Okus trying to stand miles above everybody else, getting Surge in their back pocket so they don't have to worry about it later in the game. And then you can see, without a Shockwave Hammer or any sort of movement on Noxy's inventory, they're right next to that zip line. They can go ahead and grab onto it and try to get out if push comes to shove, and their backs are up against the wall. Just like Trepman and Tenley, all the way from Lonely Labs, making a massive rotation over. And with that med miss, they're going to be able to get right back on up to shape as soon as they find their position in zone.
Yeah, this is going to be a tough rotate here from Slabby Shores. A lot of distance needs to be covered here. As these players start moving, you see there's going to be a lot of contestation here on the edges. So for the players that still need to rotate in a little bit late, they're going to have to make some things happen. But Redux's Snake, they understand this. They're getting away from the edge. But as they get away, they begin fighting here. It does look like another team just not going to let them survive, not going to let them have the easy rotation away as they just begin this fight, though. So many other players are looking, and this is dangerous. This is the last thing either duo wants to see. They cannot afford to spend too much time on this fight, or else all other teams in the area or rotating forward will start pressuring them from around.
Yeah, but Snake and Redux might not have a choice. Fredbot and Craze are down on Surge. They're going to have to go in and be proactive, a little bit aggressive on top of that to try to get the damage that they need. So this is going to be a huge moment for Redux and Snake, who have everything, including the Surge. They just need to be able to get out alive, reposition if push comes to shove. But right now, it looks like they're going to try to hold on. Piece control in a moment like this is going to be important, and Fredbot only has less than a minute to get the damage. He goes from underneath, Shockwave his way up. They end up in the same box, but a huge shot's going to be fired back. Fred has to rethink his situation. He needs a little help. He needs somebody to alleviate some of that pressure, as Redux is under that same amount, and Snake is the one to save the day.
Desperation sometimes is the strongest motivator, and when you find yourself in a situation like this, you put it all on the line. Redux and Snake, though, holding on, still alive in it. We saw another team now getting involved here. So many players here in the vicinity. It is not comfortable. These players are not feeling good about this moment, because look at the resources they are having to use just to survive.
Yep. And that's that team to the north, just third party being annoying. Fredbot knows the job's not done just yet. Snake taking a huge amount of damage. Third parties are galore, so much destruction. Fredbot bobbing and weaving in and out of these covers, trying to stay alive. Danger Hero playing a huge role, but down goes Fredbot. Redux trying to get out alive as well. Snake, he's trying to survive just a sliver of HP, but he finally gets knocked as well. 1v1 situation, and this is exactly what happens. You might be up on Surge, but it doesn't matter if a team is down and low and below and has no other choice but to try to get into the box to try to get their own amount of Surge. And I gotta think Redux and Snake might have been better off just shockwaving to a new position.
Yeah, it definitely would have been the play, but it's too late now here as 3 teams battle it out here on the outskirts. And honestly, there's not too much, in my opinion, to battle it out for. You see, Cyrus has 223 damage above that threshold, meaning that they don't have to worry about Surge. It's not even about that for them. It's more about getting those eliminations, and sure enough, they clean up one.
That's what Storm Surge does to you. Whether above or below, you have to play a certain way. Otherwise, things like that will end up happening. Left, right, and center. Aaron and Naves, 132 points. Game after game, consistency is key. And you notice very, very early on, they don't have a single elimination, but they're not worrying about Surge. They're playing a little bit passive, that collected gameplay in order to get up to this point. And you can see they're continuing their rotation. And you saw the elimination feed light up before, 251 above. The perfect edit coming out from Illis and Slacks, just taking shot after shot. Teamwork really making the dream work to keep their game alive.
I mean, honestly, when you do see Slacks and Illis' name in the elimination feed, it's usually not on the losing side. They're walking away with those beautiful elimination points more often than not here, and they're looking to add two more as the Poxy and Tetro look to be on the receiving end of the pressure that Slacks and Illis look to pursue.
You can see them picking and choosing. They got a huge amount of damage, but they go ahead and position themselves a little bit low to the ground, saying another team can finish that off. As long as they get eliminated at the end of the day, the Poxy is down. That's going to be Shore and Zypha picking up the elimination, picking up the loot, and adding to their Storm Surge totals. You see 317, quickly falling just a little bit below. So it's always going to be something that's on the back of some of these teams' mind. A zone continues to close. 40 seconds. We're going to see where this next pull is going to be. For some of these teams, man, after that last game, you might have to second guess that forecast augment and might pick it up.
Yeah, you will definitely second guess it, but looking at Palbot here with Cranky below the Surge, this is not where they want to find themselves. Even though now they're 35 above, that's still not enough. You need to make sure you're putting in more damage. And remember, we talked about it early on before Game 1 really started, and that is a lot of these teams that are here in Surge Week are teams that struggle to find a pattern in getting that Surge damage early. So some teams have fixed that issue, but others still struggling with it just a bit.
Yep, he's losing freeze, 22 above. No feeling of comfortability. Spots Aaron and Naves on the other side of that one. Barely being able to escape and ends up in somebody else's box. Finds a huge gift. Taking out Rexo, getting the siphon, getting the resources that are much needed. Is there any heals there? Turns around, finds just a few minis that he could possibly use. 72 HP. That'll definitely be enough to put him at least over 100 effective shield and HP if he can find a way to stabilize himself in this position. But so much pressure from all angles, he finally goes down.
Yeah, Kix getting that elimination there, and honestly, it was played very, very well. You saw Kix just kind of waiting to the last moment to get that. And unfortunately, after getting that, does end up going down. So still unfortunate there for them, but fortunate for players like Aviv and User who are still in this, still looking to make something of their game. And if there's any game to do it, that loadout says it's this one.
You can see with 4 eliminations on them already, finding so much loot left behind, scavenging 70 points up to this point. They're setting themselves up for a possible huge pop-off game to where even if you don't get the victory royale, you jump up so far up the leaderboards. But for a team that just needs to stay consistent through and through and has been on the precipice of winning each and every game up until this point is Blake and Bizzle. 2 eliminations, those are the same ones right out the gate. Just getting Surge tags along the way. They know they just need to make it to the end game and those opportunities will naturally present themselves.
Yuz, my man. Are you a solo? Okay, I was about to say, if you're solo again, I don't know what's going on. We got to adjust the game plan, but fortunately, Chris still in this here. And honestly, Yuz is one of those underrated players we've seen on NA. He continually shows up in these high-pressure situations, but not enough people give him the credit he truly deserves. So, hey, listen, Jacob Panda here, we're giving him that credit.
He deserves that credit at the end of the day, but at the same time, it doesn't matter what you deserve. It matters what you take away at the end of the day. And for them, they got to take away that victory royale to really prove to everybody else, because even though we're believers, there's still an opportunity right before us. With 16 below the damage threshold, though, they got to pick and choose. Are you going to try to out-heal it, get your spot in zone, let a couple other players go down, or are you going to try to get Surge? And they're separated yet again. Yuz staggering himself towards the backside. He has to get in before it's too late.
Yeah, they need to start moving. So many teams now finding themselves outside of where they need to be. But Seek, Cooper are set up nicely. They're not quite in zone yet, but this is the perfect spot to be in. You still have an angle to catch any of these other teams that need to rotate, and you're close enough to where when you decide to rotate, there's not too much resistance you're going to face. So great positioning here for them. And now we wait as the final zones present themselves here, Jacob. It's about to be a crazy ride.
Saw just moments ago, Liam and Veer trying to peek. They were down below the threshold. And as soon as they peek, they got lit up like the 4th of July. Shonye and Polo was trying to grab as much scraps, as much loot as possible. Doesn't get his hands on the shockwave hammer. Choosing what looks like to keep the shadow bomb intact, and that could be used there for a moment, but second guess, realize the shockwave hammer and the recharges that it gains is that much better, and they instantly try to get out of that tough position as Crisp and Nebify have to think of something, dig deep, some sort of trick underneath their sleeve, because not only do they not have very many heals, they're 143 above the damage threshold outside of zone.
Yeah, that is a tough spot to find themselves in here as Bucky going down there in the elimination feed. Crisp and Yuz holding on here. No shield left and not too much material to work with. They need something. They need the refresh. They need to jump in and get involved here, and that's exactly what they're doing. Big shot comes through. Crisp taking quite a bit of damage, and it unfortunately is Aviv on the other side of that wall, and that just makes that fight that much tougher as he is one incredible talent.
Huge decision here. Go for a little bit of that high ground, slowly build themselves in. They have enough ammunition to put the pressure down. Try to take some tags in the distance, but the lack of actual heals means if this one comes crumbling down, they might not survive that fall damage, but only time will tell. But a team that is just so far out, way ahead of everybody else, not going through that same chaos, Noxy and Ocus, but without the shockwave hammer, it makes me wondering how are they going to get to point A to point B without wasting what little resources they actually have.
Look, I'm going to be honest. I met Ocus at an event last year, and this man has the heart of a lion and the mind of a pro. This guy knows exactly how to handle these final zones, and I suspect we're about to see a clinic performed by this man.
I like this Oliver OG and Jeff yet again. Oliver has some of the most patience I've ever seen in a player. He's persistent to make it to the top. Content creator, turned professional gamer, really trying to earn his right in the FNCS Major 1 Grand Finals lobby. Call himself one of the best in the region, which is barely below the damage threshold, along with Bizzle, who seem to have lost Blake along the way. 38 is not much, but for some, it might be too much to overcome as he continuously on the run. Aerialist out, that perfect movement that you're talking about, getting him to the front side of zone.
Hey, listen, when you don't have a hammer, that's the next best thing here. Aerialist is so undervalued, and that is exactly why Bizzle using that clearly to get in. He notices, though, you see that zip line there? That could cause some serious issues for the team above. All it takes is him zipping up and dropping that team down. But speaking of teams that aren't dropped down, it's Smack and Mikey taking the high ground. But, in my opinion, still a little too early. Yeah, they have to be conscientious how many builds they actually use in this position. Shockwave into the front side of zone, trying to reconnect, hold on to what's theirs as users and Aviv are towards that middle layer. So much pressure going on around. They're just trying to bypass all of it, get themselves to the front side of zone, staggering only when have to, playing peekaboo with a couple of players, not finding anything, but they have to continue on. Just like Snake losing his teammate, it's all up to him to pick up these valuable points. Look, Snake, we've tuned in with him a few times. He's able to pick up eliminations. He's able to survive, but will it be that story yet again here as Bizzle, another survivor here, just looming, staying in it, staying away from any kind of trials or tribulation. I mean, look, he is just moving forward despite not having too much to work with now. He just needs to build and stay alive.
He knows his builds are scarce, and you see him matching his gameplay to only spend so much, but a huge find from Noxy. That's a refresh that definitely make sure he outlasts everybody else a little bit more, but high ground goes to somebody else. Nounsy and Knifer, this could be their chance to take home the top spot, qualify themselves into grand finals, but you got Nerve and Noxy on the other side, Naves and Aaron as well. So much madness going down below, and the zone begins to pull back. They're going to be able to recycle a lot of these builds. Knifer and Nounsy could take the game.
This is huge here for Nounsy and Knifer. Look at the distance they also have off height. That is enough to avoid taking a ton of extra damage from the hammer. So they need to be careful, but they need to stay on it. Now, looking though, you see Aaron picking up Jeff there, taking him out, sending him back to the lobby, but losing his teammate in the process. So he needs to make something huge happen here in these next few moments.
User and Aviv staying to the front side of zone. They have a chance to kind of recycle and try to cut everybody else off. They have to go to that natural cover of the bowling alley. Torch falls these splits as Gold just fires down from above. Huge opportunity to get that refresh and that siphon, and even more points to his total, but tries to Shockwave Hammer his opponent out before exiting himself, trying to think outside of the box, turns to try to finish what he started, but he goes down altogether, leaving everything up to Aviv in this situation, and he finds elimination after elimination, bringing their total to 10 as a team.
My man is on one right now. He's holding it down here. Hammer plays coming through. You see, like I talked about just a moment ago, the hammer, even though it is great, it's not enough to delodge Nounsy and Knifer there from the high ground. So they can be able to hold it from comfort as Mason, Aim, and Glaze just try to take the fight down below.
Only 2 duos remain in this game. Mason and Glaze are one of them on the low ground in the dirt, trying to stay above everybody else as Nounsy finds another one onto Aviv. Aaron's by himself as well, trying to outlast the pressure. Not too many builds to work with, but he found just enough time to try to stabilize himself. Viscobby's acting through the same thing. He tries to shockwave up and out, but he gets taken out altogether. Another huge find from Nounsy, who is still controlling the high ground. This is a 2v1 situation.
What a way to finish this game. Nounsy and Knifer on height. Aaron going to play for it. You see the Shockwave Hammer come up. It's not going to be enough, though. He's going to try and break it out yet again. You see them moments away from victory, but will they be able to hold it? There's so much going on down below. It's going to be a tough one.
Yeah, that causes so much chaos. That Excalibur rifle this late into the game is just bursting through everybody's builds, but Knifer and Nounsy have run out in the final moments. The 2v2 situation. Mason and Glaze have ultimate low ground. Shockwave Hammer's trying to play a role. Glaze goes up. He gets tagged as well. Nounsy bouncing in and out of the covers. Down goes Knifer from high ground to nothing. Mason and Glaze commit highway robbery and steal the game.
Wow, that was not what I expected, Jacob. What a turn of events to finish game number 3.
Like thieves in the night, ultimate low ground, staying ahead of everybody else, forcing them to the low ground. They were out of mats, they were out of resources. That is what you call a miracle moment that they won't forget.
They are not going to forget that here as they book their tickets to the grand finals. Only 2 spots remain, and Glaze and Mason get theirs.
That was actually a great chance from Nounsy. He had that 0 chance augment, gives him the 0-point ability when he cracks the shields. He got bounced out of zone, took the shield down of another player, tried to 0-point his way back in, but it just wasn't enough. You got to imagine what they're feeling right now on the side of Glaze and Mason to pull off such a huge feat.
I mean, look, 3 games down, 2 games to go. This is it. This is the final moment for these Surge Week players to make something of their week and make their way to the grand finals. Who's going to book that ticket or who's going to go home, Jacob? I don't know.
I mean, we've already seen 3 of the toughest names punch their ticket directly to grands. We saw a couple of our top competitors that were top on that leaderboard go down rather early in that last game. So the leaderboard is definitely in shambles. Luckily, we have Zeke and the analyst to break it all down and let us know where everything lands.
Thank you guys so much. These first 3 games have been next level. I'm telling you, this is why we love Surge Week. From left everyone solos to duos, to plays, to this right here, those final moments in the last game. Mwah, chef kiss.
Zeke, I need us to get a check on what game mode we were playing, right? Because first game, it was like solos, right? Second one, we had a little bit more normal stuff going on, some duos live. But right here, I mean, it was seemingly as if we had a trio, actually. Aaron left it as a solo right here alongside Mason and Glaze. They just kept allowing him to hammer up against Knifer and Nounsy, and their materials were just deleted. They found that refresh on the low ground, and then because them leaving Aaron actually up to continuously hammer that high ground out, they had more mats, and right there at the end there, they just played it a little bit better. They had more materials and played it so well, hit their shots, and that's the main reason why they went ahead and clutched that up.
Look, Shockwave Hammers are phenomenal. They can definitely change up who has control over the high ground, but it's also knowing when to actually utilize those charges in the Shockwave Hammer.
yeah.
And that was definitely something that I think we really saw them take full advantage of. And unfortunately, I would say as far as playing height is concerned, sometimes the higher you climb, the harder you fall.
Yeah, it's tough.
Absolutely. We do want to take a look at this top 5. Take a look. Aviv now looking to jump up and say hello, top 5. It is us. Let us on in. as the casters called out, Aviv was just on something else.
Listen, eliminations was the name of the game here for this duo, and it's great to see, right, finding their form. I mean, look at this loadout. If I were to load into a Fortnite game and you asked me, hey, Vivid, like, what do you want? Yeah, I'll take a Gold Thunder. I'll take a Shockwave, having some Chug Splashes to boot as well. But this duo just found so much Storm Surge and all these eliminations coming from range as well, hitting their shots there with that red eye.
Had a full recipe for success. Unfortunately for Aviv, losing his duo a little bit later on is probably the only reason why we didn't see him find more success with as many resources as he actually had available. But again, that's where a lot of the chaos just comes into play. And also keep in mind, Aviv, User, they are actually the team competing here that's had the highest placement throughout weekly finals. I mean, a third place finish, see them now, here again, third place. Can they maintain it though? That'll be the real question.
Absolutely. Guess what? Everybody, we have a very special interview with a community member coming in who's going to give us his thoughts, none other than Squatting Dog. What is going on, man? It is great to see you. How you doing?
What's up, everybody? I'm so stoked to be here with you guys on Surge Week, and I got a quick question for you, Zeke. I'm sure those that are watching are very curious. Are you actually on a literal FNCS spaceship? Because that set looks amazing.
Well, you know, with us, we have to do it big.
Competition's out of this world, so, you know, we got to be in.
Basically, yeah, there. Well, hey, man, we just want to ask you a couple questions. First off, obviously, you are one of the best to do it. How are you enjoying the action here on Surge Week? It is insane.
It's insane. It's insane. Surge Week, there's a lot of pressure involved, right? And there's so many outstanding gamers, and it's amazing to see them all clash on this stage for us and chat, while I just sit back and daydream about holding the Axe of Champions. I just wish I could have that one day. You know what I'm saying?
Me too. I'm there with you.
I think that's all of us. But are there any duos in particular or a specific duo that you've actually got your eyes on for Surge Week?
Yeah, if we're talking about players and not the already amazing duo that is Jacob and Panda for power casting this grand finals, I would have to say probably Okus or Noxy. I think they deserve being there. And then also Visuals and Scoped, I think are two teams that I just feel like really deserve being in the grand finals.
Absolutely. Well, hey, thank you so much for your time. Where can the fans at home, where can they find you?
Oh, man, you can find me on anything. It's called The Squatting Dog or Squatting Dog. If you look for me anywhere, we also have a podcast called the Invaulted Podcast. So if you want to check that out, we interview a lot of people like Booga, Typical Gamer, Cypher PK, Ninja, all those guys. So feel free to check me out there as well.
Well, hey, we appreciate your time. We'll catch you later. Thank you so much, Squatting Dog. Man, I love him. I've known him for, again, I feel like I just know all these people. I've been around way too long. You know, I just like, you get to say hello to everybody at all the things, all the time. It's amazing.
Okay,
again,
Boomer.
Squatting Dog. All right, anyway, you know what, we're done here. I just want more games. Let's just get it back into it. That's right, game time. 2 games left. Victory Royale's top 5. Let's find out who makes it.
With only 2 games left, 2 direct chances to go directly to Grands. Everything else left up to that consistency leaderboard. If the pressure wasn't felt before, it's definitely felt now.
I mean, look, if you haven't been consistent up to this point, it's only the VRs. So that means there's only 2 more chances left here as game number 4 commences now.
You can see everybody trying to figure out, is this the moment? Do I continue to do exactly what I've done up until this point? Go to the drop spot? But with 3 Victory Royales so far on the day, 3 spots have opened up. And for some of these competitors, that might be looking like the change up that's needed. For others, you don't want to change up what's working so far up until this point. Illis and Slacks having what seems like all the frenzy fields to themselves. They're going to get themselves a great spot. But speaking of change-ups, Scoped and Visuals have ran away from Blake and Bizzle, giving themselves a better shot in this game.
So smart for them to do. We talked about just moments ago, if you haven't been consistent, you need the win. And this team realizes it, so they're going for it. Finding a new spot to land at here at Anvil Square, this could be a totally different story for Visuals and Scoped.
Yep, we know how dangerous this duo can be once they're able to get off spawn, once they're able to get things going. So without a single point to their name so far, you got to imagine in the next 2 games, it's Victory Royale or nothing, or maybe having 2 of the most massive pop-up games of your life while getting 2nd place. The choice is still definitely up to them. I would lean for the first of the 2, as Scoped and Visuals getting much more loot, much better chance here right out of the gates as that brutal Bastion POI that's nearby. Paper and Jamper turning things around, this time getting that first one onto Drizzle. And this is going to be their next chance as well to get back into this.
The redemption story being told here by Paper and Jamper is going to be huge, but also huge is Cut and Drizzo, a collegiate duo for the ages. This team has, honestly, we haven't got to watch them too much, but they did phenomenal. Let's break this down here real quick.
Okay, that first shot landed almost perfectly before he got the wall up to defend himself. 2v1 to try to put the pressure in. Oh, I gotta give him credit. I gotta give Mexo credit though. He immediately tried to peek as soon as his teammate pounced down on the other side. But from almost getting the Victory Royale to Knifer getting knocked early, now he has nowhere to go but to get the res right back on up. Meanwhile, Neverfied Ritual with low HP have the choice. Do I heal up myself or try to take advantage of the 2v1 situation?
I mean, look, 1 HP in a dream, you're gonna have to do something, right? You gotta start moving. You gotta find heals where you can. And fortunately for Ritual, he is going to find a med kit there, get back up into fighting shape, at least against this team, because Nounsy and Knifer are not looking healthy either.
Luckily for them, everybody's disengaged up to this point. The massive elevation differential at the Citadel is going to allow them to survive, and you can see them immediately going for that capture point. When we talk about loot that it gives you, it's not only going to pack a punch in terms of the weapons, it's going to give you some heals to work with to try to put yourself in a little bit of better shape, just like Aviv and User trying to do the same thing over towards Brutal Bastion. But the thing for them, there's one duo nearby, so as soon as the capture point comes through, they're going to go ahead and get all that information and anybody in the distance.
Look, I'm going to be real with you. The capture point is something in the beginning of this season we did not see utilized to its full effect. So it's good to see here in Surge Week that these players have identified exactly how valuable it is, and they start using it. Because like Kelly mentioned just a few games ago, not only are you getting items, but you're also marking all the other chests and players in the POI, which that information is so huge when you're trying to move fast.
All that information is vital, especially that early in the game when you're contested. Zypha and Shore contested towards Shattered Slabs, but this time around it looks like they're going to try to disengage, play for the long game, get as much loot as they can, try to mat up, get their resources. They're almost uncontested on this side of the map, so it's not going to be too much of a worry for them. And this game, just like some of the others, we've got a little bit of a south pull when it comes to the zone, but this time it is going to be on the western side, so they're definitely setting themselves up for later on in the game with Tenley and Tretman going for the capture point. Nerf and Meatball there to try to kind of contest them, but two more players right behind. That's Cranky, that's Palbot, that's two players you know all too well.
Oh my, what is going on? Listen, I'm going to be honest, every time Palbot has got involved in this fight, they have found themselves the victors. So it looks like this is going to continue here as these four teams battle it out on the north side of the map.
Yeah, you even have a team coming in from a little bit of south of Lonely Labs. You said there's 4 teams total, -1, as it looks like a disengage is going to come through. We talked about the south zone. They want to set themselves up, get just enough tags, focus on the rotation thereafter. For Cranky and Palbot, kind of look at their inventory. They got a ton of metal to work with right out of the gates, refarming some of the brick that they're using. So they, too, just don't want to get caught in a situation that's not favorable for them, especially when there's not much there for them to gather.
Look, this is an interesting disengage, in my opinion, because they're taking this low ground angle. To me, I understand that they realize that there's going to be more cover down here, but honestly, you open yourself up to some of these teams that they'll be looking for shots, and they might just land them if you're not careful.
Ocus and Noxy trying to go through, move through Frenzy Fields. It wasn't overly contested in the beginning of the game, but since it is in zone, almost in the center, a little bit off center, it's going to have a lot of players rotating through, and as we join in, he's somehow, some way found elimination onto Drizzo. You can see Freeze trying to hold his covers, let him stabilize himself in the position, trying to get his shields back up with that slap juice. Leave and cut down low on the low ground with not much to work with, and the decision is now, do I go ahead and try to disengage? How do I disengage? And he doesn't even know that the nightmare of a third-party team is rolling in, but a huge shot's going to be fired back. Freeze is going to be backed up. Second guess what he's going to do. Maybe not over peak next time.
I'm going to be honest here. Cut as a solo player, still very dangerous. He's a Collegiate Cup solo champion, and I know he can handle himself in situations like this. So that's why you see these shots exchanging. Lots of damage put out while Cut not taking too much for himself. This fight, though, taking a lot longer than it needs to. He needs to make something happen quick. He needs to continue to move back. Two players pushing forward. Cut just on the back foot. Unfortunately, not going to be able to do anything as Keys and Freeze walk away with the duo elims.
You can see that's Pure and Plague crouching, trying to minimize the amount of audio and the position that they give up, trying to get a flank. That's 72 damage straight from Plague. He knows that Zone is continuously pulling towards the south side, so he knows the rotation is imminent, and he's immediately trying to do just that, letting his opponent kind of go free. But we talked about that first elimination that Keys and Freeze were able to grab on a Drizzo, is they were able to just box him up. He was just out of position, away from his teammate, and you can't do that in a lobby like this.
No, you cannot, and that's exactly what will happen if you do. You have to play together. You have to play consistent, and unfortunate for Cut there, just wasn't able to do it. But Keys and his duo, man, you saw how they played as a team, and they played that very, very well. Right there in the beginning of the fight, to mark that, they were a little bit split, taking a lot more damage than they should have against a solo player, but they regrouped, played it as a team, walked in, and walked away with that elim.
That's what you have to do. In a lot of these different scenarios, timing is of the essence. In some, it's okay to take your time. In most, time just means a third party can certainly close in on the distance. Just like Costa probably waiting for that. Seeing this fight break out. A huge shot from Tetro. And that's going to be thanks to that heavy. That's going to allow him to reposition thanks to the aerial augment. Probably going back for his teammate's reboot card and trying to think, how am I going to get him back into the game? It's only the first zone, so there's plenty of opportunity to do so. If you can survive this onslaught from Mikey and Smack, who smell the weakness, who smell the fear on the field, and try to take advantage to gather 4 more points to their total.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's going to be tough here. Any time that a player goes down and you reboot them, it lowers your chances at a victory royale. And with how important those victory royales are here in these games, it's going to be tough, even if you do get your teammate up. But a team that is together, it's Smacked and Mikey up against the wall, just trying to get into the box here of Tetro. Tetro is dangerous, though. This player, time and time again, has found shots that no one else can hit. So Smacked and Mikey need to be careful, especially now as the third party looms in the distance.
You add on the fact that that was initially Tetro's base, so he's able to bob and weave in and out of these covers, get some surprise edits just like that, unless Smacky just had enough. Shockwaving, trying to cause some destruction. It worked to perfection. He said, these are his builds. Why are we going through this? Let's just cause some destruction. And with the 2v1, that's an opportunity for Young Monk to try to take advantage, but they're not weak. Might have got not enough information on that play.
Look, information is the most important thing about Fortnite. If you're not gathering the intel you need to be successful, you're going to find yourself falling, like we've seen time and time again for so many players. But for players that are changing up how they handle things, it is Seek and Cooper hanging out here in the Storm. Now they realized that, you know what, there's too much going on around us. We got to play a little bit to the back, right? They're going to take some damage here from the Storm, but they're using that Jelly Angler augment to use the fishing rod, get as many jellies as they can, and stay alive here despite the Storm striking as hard as it is. But speaking of striking, it is Snake and Redux again. We find themselves in a high ground spot here early on, making sure that they get the surge tags for later in this game.
Yeah, it's seemingly game after game they set themselves and put themselves in a great position when it comes to Storm Surge. It's just unfortunate event sometimes. They're unable to execute, make it to the end, but with 2 more chances, backs up against the wall, that's when players begin to really shine the most. As Blake and Bizzle, uncontested this time around, having a much better start. But you got to imagine how that affects their Storm Surge game and how much damage they were able to get out of the game. But as that one pops up, 458, nothing to worry about, especially with an elimination on hand.
I mean, look, with so many teams still needing to rotate forward, Blake and Bizzle are ones that are set up for success. Despite them being on the outskirts there of the zone, they both have hammers, and they both have a clear path to move forward, and that's what Bizzle called out there in that moment as they begin to move. But Jacek in the opposite situation here with his team, Wavy Mac. both find themselves almost max distance away from where they need to be, and that just means trouble for them as they rotate in.
They're just banking on it being the slower side of the zone. The big question that we'll find out eventually is, do they have enough Storm Surge damage to play the slower side of the zone where not too many opportunities to get those tags are going to come to fruition? As Cranky losing Powerbot, still finding some damage, much needed damage at that, as he's still below the damage threshold and continuously falling. Does have at least some minis and plenty of heals to work with, but being in zone this far, tagging up that player, giving away your position is not what you want to have happen. So he's going to have to rethink his strategy, refine his pathing in towards the zone. Woozy's just a slow distance away, and you got to imagine with 2 solos outside of zone, what could happen.
I mean, so much can happen, and that's what we're seeing now as we play this out. These players struggling to rotate in. Even a User and Aviv here find themselves on the backside of this hill, and that's not going to be easy to rotate forward, especially with another team here just to the right, another team to the left as well. So much happening, and that's why the hammer comes out to get him in.
Immediately, you can see players just making that conscientious decision to try to stay ahead of the zone, not fall behind, as Acro just lands a huge amount of damage onto Veer. He already lost Danny early on in this game. That was one of those teams that was floating over towards Lonely Labs, but with the zone continuously pulling this far, it's going to be hard for them to try to survive, as he knows being 100 above is not a feeling of comfortability. You have to continue keep going with the looming threat of Storm Surge on your back. Goes below 100, knows players are boxes away, but doesn't have any HP to regain. So timing is of the essence for him, and it's definitely running out, especially with Veer and Liam knocking at the door, trying to get in. Better not answer, because those are not 2 players I want to see, and he answers at the wrong time. Veer and Liam get 4 more points to their total.
Yeah, but despite the points being added to them, the Surge is still ticking away. They have to be careful, and they got to get out of Storm here. They need just a little bit more damage to be comfortable with this game continuing on. But for teams like Nave and Aaron, both of them are set up nicely. They're 135 damage above the threshold, meaning that they don't got to worry about getting those tags necessarily here in this moment. But a lot of teams close by may have a different story to tell. So you have to be careful. You got to keep that pressure away, and hopefully they can keep this game moving.
See Woozy using the fact that he was above the damage threshold for so long, able to get Skulls back into the game, who actually got eliminated very early on in the game to the duo of Scoped and Visuals, switching up their drop spot, seemingly working as well. But down on Surge. You can see them trying to fire off into the distance, but they're so far out of zone right now. They got to start collecting all the scraps of everybody else, even to think they have a chance racking this game. Ashonier and Polo trying to put the shots on players flying high to the sky. They're well above the damage threshold, but Polo goes down. This is where you begin to get worried. Ashonier trying to play peekaboo, firing through the box, putting the pressure back onto Aviv, but he gets boxed up like a fish overall, and a huge tag towards the backside. And that's going to give Vive enough time to work with to try to stabilize himself in this position.
And I'm going to be honest, you saw Danger Hero, that beautiful augment there, healing him up just a bit. Huge advantage to have there in the inventory, but it doesn't matter. When Aviv is on your wall, you need to run and crawl, folks. Aviv looking to get this ended. 1v1 here as Shonyi playing on the back foot. Aviv much healthier, using the hammer to get in the box. Not going to be enough, though, as Shonyi does get away.
He's going to get all that loot, all those heals to work with. And you can see him immediately trying to disengage. I got what I came for, but falling parallel with Shonye, a second chance to find that elimination. It's going to go come and gone as shots now coming in from third and fourth parties, trying to stop Aviv, who I don't know what this man ate for breakfast, but I want some tomorrow.
Oh, I want some too, man. If it's going to put this much talent on your shoulders and help you boost this far ahead, you definitely going to be eating that every day, especially competition days here. As Aviv continues on here, he does make his way in, but teams looking directly at him. This is honestly the disadvantage of rotating so late, is you have these players that have already established themselves in zone, and they're just going to tag away. They're going to shoot away, and they're going to take as much health away from you, unless you can box yourself up, which we see Aviv do.
So many players nearby, solos, duos, 20 in rhythm. We talked about their experience getting at least one victory royale throughout the past 3 weeks of finals. Still find themselves here in Surge Week, but you got to imagine their ceiling, the potential of this team and what they could achieve when their backs are up against the wall. So many duos towards this outskirts as the zone continues to pull towards the western side of the map. Anybody that doesn't have a Shockwave Hammer gonna find themselves in a nightmare that they hope to wake up from soon. And you can see the lay of land. Aviv's there by himself. So is Cooper. And both of those players looking like they're getting crushed on by one of the only duos on that side of the map. And for the team that really has almost nothing to worry about, Sinks and Blue just living high in the sky without a worry. No team can really contest them that far up. And they're on the mountain to boot.
Yeah, positioning here is going to set them up with the surge tags they most definitely need here to continue this game on. But for Aviv, he's still fighting and hungry here as a solo player to stay in this. You see, though, now going to hammer away. He doesn't want to be involved with it anymore, especially considering he has to move, he has to rotate, and he cannot afford to play on the edge of zone. But looking at this loadout, like, I'm going to be honest with you, Jacob. If I'm a solo player, this is the loadout I want.
Oh, my God. A huge tag. You talk about the loadout. A massive amount of damage. Still above the damage threshold. That hasn't been a worry for him in quite a long time with how active he's been game after game. Getting the 2 different augments from Danger Hero to Bush Warrior to get himself back up to 150. And the damage continues. He's hot on the chase to Sigma. He's looking like a solo, trying to find some sort of crevice to alleviate the pressure, but everything comes crumbling down. Aviv getting a little bit too aggressive, and his show comes to an end here in game number 4.
Yeah, that was a risky play for sure, and unfortunately, it's going to tell Aviv to head back to the lobby as now Sigma going to clean it up, but unfortunately, just moments later, ends up going down. So, again, another top 10 team going to be out here from consistency, so many players now can step up to the plate and take some of those high-end leadership or leaderboard spots.
I got my fingers crossed right now. Don't go to the northwest. Don't go to the northwest, because that's going to be a roller coaster of emotions. But guess what? I forgot about the southeast. Up and down these mountains for these teams that are lacking the resources, that don't have a Shockwave Hammer. It's vital that you peek through the cones. You do what you have to get the information.
Yeah, so much that you can do here. But I'm going to be honest with you. I'm excited. And the reason I'm excited, Jamper and Paper. Every time they make it off spawn, they find themselves in the end game. In the first game, they found themselves in the top 5 of the leaderboard. Now they're looking to redeem themselves. Going down twice early off spawn was not the plan that they expected, but it doesn't matter because a duo like this knows how to come back from any kind of disadvantage.
And normally I would say with only 78 points, you need a VR at this stage in the game. But Jamper and Paper are one of the few teams that can actually have those pop-off games and fly up the leaderboard and still play for that consistency and not lay it all on the line of VR. As Redux and Snake, 121 points, finding themselves moving up the leaderboard as each and every duo goes down around them. Chili Chug Splashes and regular Chug Splashes as well. Combine that with a Shockwave Hammer and a fresh refresh on the Blue. This is a team that I think has that recipe down for success. They just need to cook a little bit longer.
Hey, I'm going to be honest. Let them cook here because Redux and Snake, man, when they're cooking with fire because they are elimination fiends. These players know how to get in the box. They know how to fight, and they know how to take what is theirs, and they continue to do that here in game number 4.
They have so much loot right there. He's looking back at those splashes. Do I use these? Do I don't use these? Do I save them for later? Choice is definitely his because he definitely earned the right to claim all that loot. As Ritual, Neverfy, we've seen them kind of a sliver of HP almost going down earlier on in the game, but they've answered the call. They got a second chance, plenty of splashes. You got to match the refresh that they've found. You can even see them splitting loot, making sure that they both have enough resources to continue to move forward in towards the zone. And already you can see them positioning themselves, gathering that information. They're right in the middle of the pack, so they got so many duos to overcome.
So much adversity to overcome here. So many players looking to do it. Owl being one of them. Remember, we talked about in the beginning of this game, the teams that unfortunately haven't been as consistent that need that VR. Owl's team, definitely one of them. One of them that don't know is Blake and Bizzle. They have been so consistent on the day that the VR is the last thing on their mind.
About to call them the duo of Double B. Can they go back-to-back with massive end-game finishes like they did to start the first 2 games? Because that will make it to where they don't need that victory royale because they're already in one of those top spots. Redux and Snake, we let them cook for quite a while, and now they're holding on to the high ground. It's smelling good for them, but the meal is not done just yet. They cannot begin to eat until the game is over. As Jamper and Paper talked about pop-off performances, this could be the start of something big. 3 eliminations so far, a huge amount of damage coming out from Paper on that lonely team trying to rotate below him.
Hey, listen, if that team's not careful, they might not be the chefs. They might get cooked, especially with Jamper and Paper here hanging out, looking at the chug splashes in hand. Paper knows exactly what he needs to do. I mean, look at it. 9 chug splashes. That is a lot to work with. You find yourself in a final moment, you use those, you're in. It doesn't matter. Even a top 5 finish will be huge for them as they find themselves just outside of the top 5. But Crisp, though, here with Yuz, I feel like this is the story of the teams that we've seen fall early, now coming back here in this final moment of this game.
You can see the points. They're neck and neck. Oliver and Jeb staggering themselves just a little bit too far backside of zone. They take a huge amount of damage as Chris and Yuz, they're just staggering themselves in zone. You said 9 splashes on Jamper and Paper. Chris had 9 as well, and they're using them to get their HP back on up. And you can see they're continuously sacrificing said HP to stay ahead of everybody else, going up a few layers so they don't get caught in the madness. Where this zone is pulling, you have to be prepared for moments like this, just like Blake and Bizzle, Shockwave hammering, staying ahead of everybody else. This is something you're going to see this team do game after game.
It doesn't matter here. Game after game, they find themselves finding success at Crisp and Yuz, though. This is the game to turn it all around. Can they walk around with the VR? And Paper goes down in the elimination feed. This finish is not what we anticipated. Jamper, solo player, Bizzle, Blake, still in this. Jamper taking damage, needs to be careful, does have the heals to get back in it, but he needs to hammer forward, and that's exactly what he's going to do, finding himself in the front of zone, taking a little bit of damage to do it, but much worth it.
Solo points right now. A Jamper can possibly collect are huge, just like that shot. 112 on the Crisp. Yuz said, let's keep it going. Redux fighting for the high ground. User duo there to challenge. Everything comes crumbling down, but it's Redux who is standing tall. Everything once more. Back-to-back shockwaves. Down goes Snake. User is going to go ahead and try to contest it once more, but spots that player going down below him. He has his eyes on a refresh. He doesn't have plenty of resources to work with, so it's almost a must as he continues to hold on to that high ground. There's only so much you could do with 0 mats.
So much to be told here as User going up for the high ground gets dropped down and finds himself just in a box-to-box with another player. Shots raining in. Will it be enough, though? They continue to lose high ground as now they walk away, cleaning up Smacked. User holding the high ground, continuing to look forward on this game.
Too early taking that zone. Everything will come crumbling down below you. Blake, he kind of baited us out, saying I'm going for the VR, but Jamper versus Blake, 1v1 situation. Both of them are solos, but Jamper makes the shot of a lifetime. Talk about the solo points and a pop-off performance. This is exactly what he needs in a moment like this. He has to try to stabilize himself. 9 builds to his name, everything looking scarce. The information that he's gathering and all the time that he's given is crucial for his end game.
All he needs is 1 refresh, 1 elimination to turn this around for him as his materials dwindle. Blake, Bizzle fully out of this game now. Gary and Sin, though, on the low ground, hammering forward, do find themselves just trying to stay in it. Shots rain in. Jamper goes down, and it is all down to this here, folks, as Gary just holding on with no material left.
What am I witnessing right now? This is pure madness. Shockwaves galore. Noxie makes a shot of a lifetime. 1v1 situation. Ocus is down. Chris versus Noxie. A shot at the FNCS Major 1 Grand Finals is on the line, but Noxie gets back down. He gets denied that chance by Chris, who has just enough resources to work with. But the pressure coming down from below, it comes chomping down. The last build, it's not enough, and Noxie advances himself and Ocus to the finals.
Wow, what a finish there. Ocus, we talked about a moment ago. We talked about the heart of a lion, but his duo was the one that showed up in the final moments to get their spot in the grand finals.
I don't even know what I was watching in the last 30 seconds. He's telling me trying to take high ground. Shockwave said no. Players bouncing in and out, but Noxie at the perfect moment, finding the refreshes and getting aggressive. Elimination after elimination. This man has to be living with so much confidence after qualifying.
Yeah, I mean, look, he played this to perfection. Barely any material left. It didn't matter. Noxie walking away, excited there in that final moment. That's heartwarming to watch here. And honestly, that's an MVP kind of play to finish the day. But 1 game remains. That was it. We have 1 more opportunity for a team to potentially walk away with a VR spot in the grand finals. Who's it going to be? Could it be Jamper and Paper? Could it be Blake and Bizzle? Or will another team take that spot from them? Well, we'll find out here shortly, Jacob.
But once again, I've got that feeling of deja vu all over again. with our top competitors, some of them going down early, Panda, the leaderboard has to be shaken up. Zeke, we need your help once more.
I got you, Jacob. I'll always have you, my friend. My gosh. This was whack-a-mole, shockwaves, explosions, chaos.
Yeah.
Everything that could be this game was.
Well, listen, you know, I mentioned it last game. We need to check on the game mode. We need another check on the game mode again, because right there, it felt like we were playing zero builds. Everybody's like, you know what? Heck the builds. Let's just start shockwave hammering around. I don't know what was going on.
There was one time where I saw a player shockwave back and forth out of zone at least 3 times. I thought I was watching whack-a-mole for a moment there.
It was crazy. Also, very quickly, let me just introduce Callie Link, who's joining us here for the last 2 games. She will be breaking down all the incredible things, but my gosh, Okus, Noxy coming out here, and I think for Noxy in those final moments, he was just set up right where he needed to be, right? He just had to hit a single shot to secure that spot.
Yeah, no builds up, right? Everybody's got their shotguns out, and he hits the shot right there to set up his duo. Noxy played it so well, though, given the opportunity of a lifetime from the low ground as well. Nice shot.
I love that you say that, because if there's 2 words that I could describe Noxy, it's opportunistic and aware. He was so, in that final moment right there when it was a 1v1, you could see that he knew exactly where the opponent was going to be, going from that high build, and took that shot immediately, and obviously it paid off in the end.
100%.
So insane. Now, once again, if you're tuning in, you've missed 4 crazy games of Fortnite action. This will be the last one coming up. We have to set the stage here. A Victory Royale will send you and your duo to grand finals, and top 5 will move on as well. We've been following these teams for these 4 games. What's interesting to me after that game, Redux now pushes up someone out of that top 5, but it's not only him. There is other names that are moving up 12, 15 places to knock on top 5.
Yeah, the name of the game for Snake and Redux here was that they were pretty much able to stay on the high ground from half zone onward. I believe it was the 7th, 8th zone where finally they started to get contested for it. And when they did, let me tell you, the lobby was going crazy. I think there was like 3-4 teams going for it at the same time. I don't know if that was like a synchronized thing that everybody just decided, yeah, we'll go for it right now. But Redux and Snake did a good job of defending it for a little bit.
I'm also wondering if Snake and Redux utilized that Keymaster augment, allowing them to get that holo chest and those chili chug splashes, which obviously gives you that much needed mobility outside of the hammers and everything, giving them a little bit more of an advantage, which obviously they use to their advantage.
Yeah, it worked out very, very well for them. But if we're looking around that top 5 to top 10, when you go top or 3rd through 10th is very, very close, right? Only 30 points actually separating those teams.
Well, what's crazy to me is that Yuz and Gary's team both moved up more than 10 placements on the leaderboard right here, showing that although this is the final game, a lot of these teams still aren't out yet.
Yeah, 100%. Pop-off games from Jamper and Paper as well, but I'm looking at Blake and Bizzle and Aaron and Aze. If you look at the rest of the leaderboard, they are so far ahead that they might just take game number 5 off and just go have like a party, celebrate already, because they are so high up there that I don't know if anybody can really catch them.
Well, one thing that they're doing that a lot of other teams are doing is that early aggression, Zeke. You can see how many eliminations that they have, and Blake and Bizzle seem to have 2 eliminations by zone 1 every single time.
I don't know how they do it. Bizzle and Blake are usually very, very passive players, but right now they're finding all the elims.
Yeah, really quickly, I do want to highlight this duo in 6, Chris and Yuz. We kind of talked about them at the beginning of the show as a duo we have eyes on. And now after that game, they are sitting there. They can literally see the finish line, and they have 1 game to try and break into that top 5.
I just got nervous. I just got nervous for this duo, right? Any of those duos around that top 5, right now they sit in 6th place, only a couple of points behind. 1 game remaining, grand finals. Can this duo clutch up? And I mean, right here, they actually had the opportunity, the 1v1 situation. Unfortunately, though, you know, only 60 effective HP right there. Not a lot to work with.
What I do think they have a little bit of advantage on here is that not only are they good as a duo, you can kind of see that they have good communication going on. They're constantly moving as a unit, but also a lot of solo potential as well.
Yeah, 100%. That's what it's going to come down to, right? Because that's making the difference right now. These solo performances, putting up those extra points, is what's bumping this leaderboard so high.
And just remember that number, 142 points. That is the number we are looking to beat here. Remember, the top 5 will move on. This is the last chance.
My gosh.
If a duo doesn't make it here, that's it. FNCS Major 1, done. They have to look forward to Major number 2. Any quick expectations going to this last game? I mean, I feel like we've seen just about everything.
Last chance, last shot. Let's see some crazy plays.
Early aggression, maybe. Switch up, stick to what you know. I don't know. 1 more game.
I don't want it to end, but this is it. Final game here from NA East. One last ride. Here we go.
It is time. The final game of Surge Week is here for NA East. So many teams outside of the threshold of qualification through consistency. We need to see a team collect that VR and get their spot in the grand finals. But so many teams have been consistent. Will anybody disrupt that here, Jacob?
Only time will tell at the end of the day. And you heard Zeke talk about 142 points. That's the threshold we're going to be looking at as game number 5 has started. Everybody is going to be fighting tooth and nail to inch themselves into the top of the leaderboard. And if they don't, they're going to be hoping that somebody into the top 5 comes out on top of this game.
I mean, look, one of the fights that we've talked about all day long, it's Nerf and Meatball. This duo continue to fight here in Lonely Labs against two very worthy teams. Another fight, though, that we have to pay close attention to this time around is Paper and Jamper. What they need is a pop-off game. Everybody has talked about it. Now we talk about it again. Paper, Jamper need to have the performance of a lifetime to climb in. They are just outside of the top 5, and they want it. They're hungry. We've seen them closely through their series, how they've been prepping for this moment, how they've played together in a room, side by side, all for the opportunity to compete in the grand finals, and now is their last chance.
And with so much on the line, they chose to kind of go back home for this last and final opportunity, saying, hey, we played just a little bit more comfortable in our own natural place. With their backs up against the wall, gotta hope it all comes down to fruition. But only 22 points away from that bubble. The decision's got to be looming in the back of their mind. Do I grab this elimination? Do I go for this, go for that? But it's actually going to be a choice to disengage, get out of this position, and try to loot up. They go towards the north side of the map to where, in theory, they're hoping there's less and less people at.
I mean, look, I'm going to be honest with you. That's probably the best position for them. They've been struggling with this off-spawn fight, so if they can disengage quickly enough and not run into any other type of turmoil on the way, it should be good news for them. Now, though, Redux and Snake, this duo, man, oh man, have they slowly creeped themselves into contention on the day. Every time we tune in, they're doing something spectacular to make their way up to the top of the leaderboard. Despite them not necessarily being close to wins, they both have played so well together, putting eliminations on the board, getting that placement points, and now finding themselves just inside the top 5.
I mean, it was you who said, let them cook, let them cook. That appetizer was definitely good. Just waiting for that main course to really come out. As Aviv and users, they're just looting up over towards Brutal Bastion. You see them immediately disengaging once more, not wanting to fight that early game fight, but instead try to get some surge, try to get some damage on other players that they know they have that height advantage off in the distance. See Egoist on one side, Yuz on the other. Trade for surge in situations like this where there's not too many players around you on the southern portion of the map is important, especially since you got to know that the zone is now going to be a southern zone.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, this is going to be one of those unique zones that we get to see. You see how far it pulls over the water, too? That just tells me that this is going to continue to pull south. So, if you're one of those northern teams, you need to stop what you're doing and get those feet moving, because you do not have much time left before this zone starts to spell your inevitable doom.
Northern teams, this paint, if you're Costa and Zeus, an eastern team as well. As Monk and User are one of those eastern teams contested over towards Slappy Shores, or I wouldn't say contested off the drop, but making it a little bit more crowded than anyone would hope, as Seek looking like he's taking some damage into the distance, but he's just trying to trade for that surge. There's so many slap barrels, there's so many different variations of heals to try to get yourself back on up. You might feel a little bit more comfortable to do just that, as Gary's not feeling that same comfortability. He lost his teammate Sen just moments ago, so now he's trying to get that reboot card and get his teammate right back into the game, which looks like it's going to be very hard with this many players around.
Ooh, and it does look like it was a sneak attack to take out Gary's teammate in Sen, and sure enough, it was quick and painless there for them. I mean, look, limited material they had to use to get that elim, right? They were in and out so that Gary couldn't get there to kind of contest what they were doing. I mean, honestly, smart play from the duo there, but unfortunate there as Gary's teammate does go down, but that doesn't mean he's out yet, right? We've seen a lot of big solo plays happen here in this game, and so much is left in this game to play out.
Especially, you got to add in the fact that, you know, the zone's going to pull away, so they can probably get that reboot as the user duo uncontested towards the southern port of Shattered Slabs. They're going to go ahead and try to get themselves as much loot and everything to work with, so that way they can have a little bit more of a comfortable game moving into the mid, moving into the end game.
Look at this. We see these players continuing to fight it out. Despite this being the last game, caution is thrown to the wind as Acro and Danny continue to push forward here. You see players looming in the distance. They need to be careful. They cannot overextend in a situation like this. All it takes is one shot to turn all around, and there it is. Fortunately, Acro gonna be able to pick that up, taking out Gary. That is the solo player we just saw moments ago, unfortunately, out of this competition.
They're trying to turn this ship around and have a little bit more smooth sailings, but Zeke has his friends. I have mine. I know Bizzle. I know Blake, rather personally at that. They've set themselves up, honestly, in this fifth and final game to win off of two different ways, the Victory Royale or that top consistency spot. And I go ahead and I'm going to throw it to Taco because they got some great loot. How did they get up at this point?
Well, Jacob, for starters, Bizzle went ahead. He managed to find a key, and immediately after this, launches himself towards a hollow chest, makes sure to secure a gold red eye, and then from this point forward, he immediately managed to secure a couple of surge tags, which is really crucial given the fact that since they're no longer being contested by Visuals and Scope, they need to make sure they're keeping that surge management strong, and basically now they're looking for the final home stretch to solidify staying inside of that top 5 or a Victory Royale.
I mean, Taco Bout, incredible analysis there from Taco. Thank you so much for breaking it down for us. But we got to break down J6, connecting some big, crucial surge shots there from a distance. I mean, look, we look at this game, right? We look at how this is playing out, and honestly, there's no clear direction as to what we're going to see. So many players still left in this. So many heavy hitters. Even Scoped and Visual potentially could walk away with a spot if they play this right.
I like that quick stat. 3 World Cup finalists competing today. Who are they? Panda, I'm going to give you a moment. You can answer me just a little bit later. Everybody else, depending on where you're watching it, go ahead and shout it at your screen. Trust me, I'll know if you guys were right, if you were wrong. We'll go ahead and figure that out just a little bit later as Panda's doing his homework. Shonye and Polo are trying to do theirs. They're separated just a little bit, but it's Nerf and Meatball who are box-to-box parallel from one another. They have the man advantage, but they don't want to take advantage of it because they don't know exactly where that additional player is at, and the answer comes in. Panda, were you right?
I'm going to be honest. So I got Bizzle and Bucky, but I was lacking in slacks. So listen, I was close. I knew that 2 out of the 3, so I'll take it. You know what? I'll take it.
So I'm going to go ahead and add one more. We got a 4th World Cup finalist.
Yeah.
Not playing in the game, but somewhere in the show, we'll play a little game of can you find them, as Polo and Shonye are trying to find some extra resources and loot to work with. A little bit of a prolonged battle, but they're not directly going in. They're not putting everything on the line because you got to realize these players have had their surge and their moment up until this point, but I just continuously looking at that mini-map and it's making me a little scared of how far away Polo is going from his teammate. All it takes is a moment, a second of separation for a team to pounce, and game over in your 5th and final game.
Especially with players in this lobby. Just because this is Surge Week does not mean these are slouches. These are some of the best in the region competing for their final opportunity to walk away in the grand finals. And so if you are caught lacking even for a second, you will go down. So you need to be cautious, you need to be careful, and you need to be ready to take any fight that comes your way.
It's very important right now for Mikey and Smack to not get caught off guard, not get too separated. So many hungry teams trying to make it to the top of the leaderboard. Some in a position to win off consistency. Most needing that Victory Royale, with the bubble being 142. A pop-up performance from Mikey and Smack, and a couple of those top competitors going down early. Could smell a grand final spot at the end of the day. They just need to play their game. They just need to make it to the end. Because that's what it comes down to, how well they perform in these final moments. Tenley and Trepman feeling some of that pressure, uncontested towards Lonely Labs. You got to imagine their loot looking rather good to defend in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, these fights on the edge here always worry me. They get my nerves to an all-time high because for these players, as we know, it's their last opportunity to do something big.